Hey, what's up guys, TechTitan here, and I am back again with a brand new video. So before I begin this video, as always, I want to thank you all so much for watching my content. If you enjoy it, make sure you leave a thumbs up, make sure you check out previous videos, and also follow me on Instagram. I post there like previews of videos that are coming up, and I also answer questions over there. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with today's video. And today we're going to be doing a comparison that has been requested by a lot of people actually, and that is the OnePlus Nord N200 5G and the OnePlus Nord N100. And pretty much I'm going to be referring to these phones as the N200 and the N100, just to make it short and simple. So now we're gonna go ahead and start by actually talking about the design of both of these phones and how they're kind of different. So I want to separate it first. I want to talk about the design of the N100 and then the design of the N200 and look at them side by side again to look at similarities and differences. So starting with the design of the N100, and it's pretty much simplistic. The back is made out of this matte plastic finish. You have your camera module up top, and you have your OnePlus logo as well as a OnePlus stamp at the bottom of the phone, and it feels pretty good in the hand. Again, it's made out of matte plastic. I think that's a really good option to use when it comes to budget smartphones. So taking a closer look at the back, you have your triple camera setup with your LED flash, which we will talk about it in a second when we put both phones side by side. And you also have your fingerprint sensor, which is also placed on the back of the phone. At the bottom of the phone, you have your 3.5mm headphone jack, you have your microphone, you have your USB-C, as well as your bottom-facing speaker. And the fact that they still retain a headphone jack is a thumbs up from me already. I mean, I don't really know a lot of people that use it, but it's there if you need it. Now, as far as the left-hand side, you have your volume up and down, and they're decently clicky, they're tactile, they're pretty good overall. And on the right-hand side, you have your power button, which OnePlus did not really give it any texture. I mean, there's really no need to, just because it's not on the same side as the volume up and down. It's still the same clickiness as the volume up and down. Now, moving on to the OnePlus N200 5G. I did several videos on this phone. I'll leave them linked in the description below too if you guys want to check it out. So similarly, as far as the material used, it's still matte plastic, but this time around, I feel like the finish just got an upgrade. It looks nicer than the N100, and you will see that when I put them both side by side. And on the bottom of the phone, you have also your 3.5mm headphone jack, so OnePlus retained that. You have your microphone, your USB-C, as well as your bottom-facing speaker. Now, the right-hand side houses your power button, but this time around it also acts as a fingerprint sensor. So that's actually, to me, a better placement. Makes the phone cleaner overall, and it's just where your thumb naturally is placed. So also on the back of the phone, you have your triple camera setup, and you also have your LED flash. Now, putting the phones side by side will actually give us a better idea of how these designs are similar and different. So if we look at them, you can see that the N200, you can think of it as a cleaner design. I mean, it's not a drastic design change. They still retain similar elements, but it's definitely a cleaner design choice. So the camera module is slightly larger. The color of the back actually, and the way that it shines, the way that the color shines, makes it better. The movement of the fingerprint sensor from the back to the power button gives it a cleaner look. They got rid of the OnePlus stamp at the bottom, and I think that's a thumbs up also. So yeah, overall the design of the N200 versus the N100 is just cleaner. Moving on to the displays of the phones. So the display on the N100 is a 6.5-inch display with the resolution of 1600 by 720. So it's a 720p panel, not the highest resolution out there. So definitely a decent panel. It is an IPS LCD panel, and it does support 90 Hz display. So for a budget phone, that's really a thumbs up from me any time of the day. When you put a 90 Hz over a 60 Hz, that's an upgrade. So as far as the N200, the display on the phone is a 6.49 inch, and the resolution on it is 2400 by 1080p. Also has a 90 Hz panel. So it's clear that the resolution wise, you're getting a much better resolution on the N200. However, what I noticed, if we actually get really nitty and gritty with the paper specs, the N200 has an exact 6.49-inch display, whereas the N100 has a 6.52-inch display. So slightly smaller, but hardly noticeable, if you ask me. And yeah, I mean, so the quality goes to the N200 hands down. Not just that it has a higher resolution, but the quality of the panel is slightly better. So now next up, I actually want to move on and talk about the specs. So the N100 has the following specs. So they have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 460 chip, and it is an octa-core chip with 4 cores being at 1.8 gigahertz, and the other 4 are clocked at 1.6 gigahertz. You have the Adreno 610 GPU, and it comes standard with 64 gigabytes of storage as well as 4 gigabytes of RAM. Now specs are in the kind of a low to mid-range standpoint. So that's really the paper specs on the N100. Now as far as the N200 goes, so it has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 480, and it is a 5G chip. And the chip itself is also octa-core, where 2 of the cores are clocked at 2 gigahertz and the other 6 are clocked at 1.8 gigahertz. And you have the Adreno 619 for GPU, also 64 gigabytes of storage and 4 gigabytes of RAM. Now, as far as the daily tasks, and I did an in-depth spec review on the N200, I'll leave it in the description below. So opening up apps, the N200 is slightly faster and slightly better, but one of the things that I noticed is that the N200 is just a smoother device to use overall. So for example, let's open up the YouTube app, and if we scroll down a page, you'll see that it does less stuttering than the N100, and that's something to note. Overall, the specs, they're similar in a way, but at the same time, the N200 just gives you a smoother feel and is just better overall phone to use if we're looking at specs. So next up, I actually want to talk about the cameras. So the N100 has the following camera specs. So you have a main sensor of 13 megapixel, and you also have a macro and a depth sensor, both at 2 megapixels. And the video capability is 1080p at 30 frames per second. The front camera is 8 megapixels at f2.0 aperture. So the N200 also has a 13 megapixel main sensor, 2 megapixel macro and 2 megapixel depth sensor, but the front camera has received an upgrade from 8 megapixels to 16 megapixels at f2.1 aperture. As far as the camera quality goes, so here's what I have to say about the actual camera quality. To be honest, when you're looking to buy, if you're in the market for either of those phones, if camera is your number one priority, then I don't recommend it, just because they're not elite. If you want a OnePlus device and you want a good camera, I would go, and you want to still make it a budget, I would go with the N10. And if you guys want to see a comparison between the N10 and the N200, I'll make that happen as well. Just let me know in the description or over on Instagram. But the camera quality, if I were to pick between these two, goes to the N200, just because the pictures on it look slightly more vibrant and they look better. All right, so finally I want to talk about the purchase decision. Now, if we look at both of these phones, the N100, you can find it for $160. The N200 is standard at $240. But sometimes you can actually get them cheaper if you're either with Metro or T-Mobile, or you want to start a service with Metro or T-Mobile. So they have promotions going on. That's just up to you. Check your current promotions and see if you can get them at special prices. If not, let's talk about the $160 and the $240. To me personally, I would pay the extra money and get the N200 for a couple of reasons. Now, the N200 supports 5G and the N100 does not. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is the fact that the N200 has a higher resolution. So watching content will be better. Also, the phone is just smoother than the N100. And the other thing that I want to talk about is design. Now, design is a subjective thing, but to me personally, I think that the N200 is just a cleaner device than the N100, which drives me towards paying the extra $80 and getting the N200 over the N100. And yeah, I mean, that's really where I'm gonna wrap it up. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a thumbs up, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you guys want to see as far as comparisons, or if you have a specific phone that you want me to check out or take a look at, let me know. I'll gladly do so. So yeah, with that being said, make sure you leave a thumbs up, make sure you're subscribed, and I will definitely catch you guys in the next video. Thank you all so much for watching.